Welcome back. Well, our next guest you might recognize from AM Buffalo. He is Dr. Jack Bertolino from Smooth Solutions Medical Aesthetics. He does all sorts of wonderful things for your skin and body. But right now we're talking to Dr. Jack because he is the rock and roll doctor. This guy has got story upon story because when the guys backstage at places like Darien Lake rock stars need a doctor, Jack is the man with a plan. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Lorraine. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. So you're the man backstage. You are the doctor when the rock stars say, "I got a little something in my throat." You're the guy who helps them out.
We've been doing this. My friends and I have been doing this gig for probably a good 10, 15 years here. I carried this through from my days working in Maryland. So most of my stories have to do with stuff that happened in the early to mid '80s. But it certainly follows through today because rock and roll is dramatically.
Yeah, well, okay. Pink Floyd. I got to tell you, first of all, one of my favorite bands of all time. I can remember being in college, sitting on a beanbag chair in the middle of my room in college, listening to Pink Floyd through 4 speakers. And talk to me about these guys. Please tell me they're cool.
Very interesting story about them. By the time I got to meet the band back in 1988, it was the Delicate Sound of Thunder tour. Roger Waters was already passé in the band. By that time, the LSD-ridden, long-haired hippies of that particular group were very stately English gentlemen.
Oh, so a little change in the boys.
Tremendous change. It was totally business.
Yeah.
They still put on a fantastic show. It was real interesting to be backstage just for the amount of technology that those people had in that time period to produce, a wonderful show that hopefully will come back again. And most people in this generation will.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of these guys, unfortunately, it's like, to us it's classic rock, but to them a lot of this stuff is new,
Most of the big bands, as you'll see, and most people know, are multi-generational. They'll go to shows with their parents and grandparents. My girls are still too small for that, but by the time they're at that age, we'll be doing a multi-generation, event. And it speaks to the wonderful medium that rock and roll and music is.
Yeah. Now, Pink Floyd, let's go. I mean, we could talk to you for an hour, Jack, but just to touch on a couple. Bon Jovi. Talk about a band who's had a resurgence as of late. In the 80s, they were huge, and now, I mean, you see John Bon Jovi all over the place.
Yes, he's a very good-looking 40-some-odd-year-old man.
And perhaps you could speak to his plastic surgery, because you cannot tell me that man has not had some work done.
I can tell you, I think that's an all-natural look, except for, his hair is just phenomenal. This is a guy that I met back in '87 when they did Slippery When Wet, which at the time had come out. Those guys are about 10 to 11 years younger than me, and I met them backstage at the Capitol Center in Maryland. It was very interesting because of all of them, Richie Zambora, who's their lead guitarist, and a resident of New Jersey, was extremely friendly to me and was able to take me around and show me a lot about what was going on backstage. Most of the time when we service these people and take care of their medical needs, it's because they don't have physicians and they're away from home. A lot of them, get sick like anyone else or need refills on their, chronic meds.
Yeah, speaking of chronic meds, Aerosmith. Talk to me about Aerosmith. Now, these guys are clean and sober, too. A lot of these guys are clean and sober, which is why I think they're able to continue, as they start to get up there in years. They can't do that stuff. They can't do the recreational drugs anymore because it would just.
Well, they are few and far between, but the ones that have made it through, Steve, the example, are clean and sober. And I met Tyler backstage at Darien Lake about 4 years ago. Was a wonderful guy, although you don't know how to take him when you meet him. Basically, all his medical need was he requested a B12 shot, which I was very happy to give him.
Yeah.
I did think that at some point he was going to hit me up for something, but the gentleman was he was a complete gentleman and only had nice things to say and was a very cordial while we were in his dressing room.
Okay, speaking of hitting you up for something, a Grateful Dead.
Yeah, 1984.
Maybe not so clean and sober as they get older. I don't know.
No, some bad vibes with them back in the early '80s, especially with one of the members of the group. That not being the late great Jerry Garcia, who I had the pleasure of meeting one time back in the early '80s at the Capitol Center. It does speak to sometimes having to be diplomatic about what some people who think who they are want and if you should give it to them.
Yeah, I imagine having your job, you've got to go in there trying to have no judgments. You got to go in there and say what's best for this person and without judgments. That's got to be kind of tough.
It is tough because you have to first and foremost protect yourself.
Right.
Second, you have to do what's justified, and third, you have to take the abuse and sometimes the threats that are made. Yeah. But this is all part of this particular business and dealing with people that are, in most people's eyes, VIPs.
Now, James Taylor, as we wrap up here, talk about somebody who had a really, a tough past with substance abuse, but has been clean and sober for, oh my gosh, years and years. Have you seen him in his later career?
Yes, I've seen him as a fan back in the early 70s, but got to meet him with my wife at Darien Lake about 2 years ago. He's a wonderful human being. He's one of the few people that has a voice that has not changed.
Oh, it's very true, isn't it? It's that gorgeous timbre to it. Yeah.
It's extraordinary, and I made sure I told him that his voice sounded the same as it did in 1973 when he played with Carly Simon.
Oh, he had to love that. Now, Jack, let me ask you, as a singer myself, do you have a quick
any medical advice? Please don't.
Oh, well, I'm asking you right now. What is your cure-all or quick fix for voice strain? Because these rock singers are on, they're really singing. What's your?
It's the old standard treatment that most of the British guys still use, and that's a real hot cup of tea with a lot of honey. That's the God's honest truth. Of course, you can put them on a little hurricane spray and decrease the swelling in their vocal cords, but nothing beats the old-time remedies.
Okay, you heard it. Hot tea and lemon. Dr. Jack, thank you so much. Quickly, we're wrapping.
I would like to say a happy birthday to Mick Jagger, who is 64 years old today.
Oh.
God bless you, Mick.
Happy birthday, Mick! Dr. Jack, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lorraine.
He's at Smooth Solutions in Williamsville. You want to check him out, and I'm sure you're going to be back with us again. Thanks, Dr. Jack.
Thank you, Lorraine.
We'll be right back.
New details on a